Tonight on Dispatches, an ideology of bigotry and intolerance spreading through Britain, with its roots in Saudi Arabia.
We Muslims have been ordered to do brainwashing.
On women's rights.
Allah created the woman nutrition.
If she doesn't wear hijab, we hit her.
Gay rights.
Take the homosexual man and throw him off the mountain.
Living in a multicultural society.
You have to live like a state within a state till you take one.
And holy war.
The pinnacle, the crest, the summit of Islam is jihad.
A Dispatches investigation has uncovered a fundamentalist message spreading from the Saudi Arabian religious establishment through mosques run by major UK organisations, which claim to be dedicated to moderation and to dialogue with other faiths. Green Lane Mosque in Birmingham is a high-profile mosque, and one we'd heard receives theological guidance from Saudi Arabia. Our reporter went undercover last summer, joining thousands of worshippers. He's staying anonymous. The theme of today's lecture is, don't believe in the arrests of alleged terrorists without proof, as non-Muslims are liars.
I don't believe them because they are kuffar and lying is part of their religion.
Kuffar is an Arabic word meaning non-believer, an infidel.
Unlike those kuffar, they do whatever they want to do.
It's a term our reporter was to hear repeatedly being used in a derogatory way.
They are liars. They are terrorists themselves. Liars. They will come before the people and talk, and they are lying. You can't believe them. These are pathological liars.
Green Lane Mosque calls itself a centre for interfaith communication, welcoming people of all religions. But our reporter filmed there over 4 months and found this speaker, Abu Usama, was their main English-language preacher. He says Christians and Jews are enemies to Muslims.
It has come to pass that we find the Nasara, the Yahud, America, the UK, France, Germany, they have come against the religion of Al-Islam. Why give up your deen and your long legacy of Al-Islam to please someone who is enemy to me?
Abu Usama is an American convert.
Hey, my man, where you from?
And a very popular speaker at Green Lane. He preaches against non-Muslim laws.
You want Al-Islam and the laws of Islam to be practiced. You want to do away with the man-made laws.
And says British popular culture is a threat.
The popular culture. If you are a person who gives yourself to that, your mind is going to be controlled by the so-called powers to be, who make these man-made laws.
Green Lane's official website says the mosque is designed to counter the negative publicity and stereotyping of Islam. But after a few weeks, our reporter was told by fellow worshippers how to access another, much more difficult to find internet chat room. It's run by Green Lane Mosque and broadcasts Abu Usama's speeches live to a small band of listeners. He says Muslims should obey British laws and contracts if they don't contradict Islam, but he condemns non-believers.
No one loves the kuffar. No one loves the kuffar. Not a single person here from the Muslims loves the kuffar. Whether those kuffar are from the UK or from the US. We love the people of Islam and we hate the people of Kufr. We hate the kuffar.
Filmed undercover, he says he doesn't agree with the violent actions of Muslim terrorists, but he prefers them to non-Muslims.
I don't agree with those individuals, but at the same time, they're closer to me than those criminals of Undercover.
He's better than 1,000,000 George Bushes, Osama bin Laden. He's better than 1,000 Tony Blairs because he's a Muslim.
The mosque films some of Abu Usama's speeches, and they're sold locally as DVDs. In this one, he says even Muslims who don't follow their strict rules can be ostracized as kafirs.
If you leave off the prayer out of negligence, then you are a kafir. If he dies like that, you have to bury him with the kuffar. You can't marry him.
He preaches an ideal Islamic state.
Muslims shouldn't be satisfied with living in other than the total Islamic state.
His vision of the Islamic state includes extreme punishments, as he outlines in this DVD.
Whoever changes his religion from Al-Islam to anything else, kill him in the Islamic State.
The religious leader, or imam, can decide the punishments.
If the imam wants to crucify him, he should crucify him. The person is put up on the wood and he's left there to bleed to death for 3 days.
Abu Usama condemns the Western interpretation of free speech, which means the Prophet can be insulted, but he can be censored.
If I were to call homosexuals perverted, dirty, filthy dogs that should be murdered, that's my freedom of speech, isn't it? They'll say, no, I'm not tolerant. But they feel that it's okay to say something about the Prophet.
Our reporter has found these views being regularly preached at the head mosque of a major Muslim organisation. Green Lane Mosque, Birmingham, is the headquarters of the Makazi Jamiat Ahle Hadith, a British charity which runs over 40 UK mosques and branches, as well as part-time Islamic schools. It's an influential affiliate of the Muslim Council of Britain, which has praised it as a national body, respected for its educational and outreach programmes. But our reporter secretly filmed Abu Usama teaching that a jihad is coming against the unbelievers.
Verily Allah is going to bring a group of people that He loves and they love Him. These people will be soft and kind to the believers, and they'll be rough and tough against the kuffar. They will fight in the cause of Allah. I encourage all of you to be amongst them, to begin to cultivate ourselves for the time that is fastly approaching, where the tables are going to turn, and the Muslims are going to be in a position of being uppermost and in strength. And when that happens, people won't get killed unjustly.
After a few weeks, our reporter learns that Green Lane worshippers get regular religious instruction direct from Saudi Arabia. Live two-way video links are set up. Projected onto the wall is the Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia. He's the country's top religious leader, now being beamed live to worshippers in Birmingham. They ask questions through an interpreter and get fatwas, religious rulings. By now, our reporter has become a regular at the mosque. The man who supervises the video links tells him they've recorded them.
We actually record all of them on DVD.
You do?
Yeah. So what we'll do is, if whatever the cost of the DVD is, whatever, you just, contribute to that, and inshallah, that's not fun.
Yeah.
And our reporter is given them.
These are the masters, yeah. Whatever you want to do, it's fine.
The DVDs show a Birmingham worshipper who asks the Grand Mufti for a fatwa about understanding between Muslims and other religions.
Some people say we shouldn't call Christians and Jews kuffar, and we should establish good relations with them. What's your answer to this?
His answer is uncompromising.
This is not true. Jews and Christians who do not follow the Prophet Muhammad are kuffar. They will go to hell.
He says Muslims can't help non-believers.
Anyone who helps or defends an apostate, or a pagan, or an atheist, or anyone who attacks Islam will be cursed.
Green Lane Mosque is spreading a brand of Islam originating in Saudi Arabia, often known as Wahhabism. It's a hardline theology opposed by many British Muslims. Academic Dr. Irfan Al-Alawi investigates Wahhabism. He keeps his face hidden in interviews because of the dangers of his work.
Wahhabis believe you cannot show tolerance to other religions. So the religion of Islam has to rule the world. Green Lane in Birmingham, that mosque is one of the extreme Wahhabi centers in the UK.
Wahhabism is opposed to the traditional tolerant beliefs of classical Islam, according to leading Muslim academic Abdul Hakim Murad.
Its principle is totalitarian, it's highly judgmental, it has no track record of dealing with other sorts of Islam or with unbelievers with any kind of respect. If you're outside the small circle of the true believers, you're going to hell, and therefore you should be treated with contempt.
Non-believers are called kafirs, or kafar. It's a term they use as an insult, according to moderate British Muslims like Dr. Taj Hagi.
The word kafir is a very pejorative, negative, disparaging term. When you call someone a kafir, they're not worthy to be associated with. This kind of intolerance is something that gives rise to extremists.
Many children were present at the Green Lane lectures our reporter filmed, where intolerance and bigotry were openly preached. In a DVD of a conference at Green Lane Mosque, a preacher called Sheikh Al-Jabali says Muslim children should be kept away from non-Muslims.
What is sad to see is that for many parents, they send their children to the kuffar school. They allow them to mix with the kuffar so that the lifestyle and the beliefs of the kuffar become deep-rooted in the hearts of the kids.
In a fatwa given in the video links, the Grand Mufti says children should be hit if they don't pray.
Tell your children to pray when they are 7 and hit them when they are 10.
The Ali Hadith's website directs readers to literature which says Islam confers equal rights upon all, regardless of sex. But in a crackly internet broadcast, Abu Usama says women are deficient.
Allah created the woman, even if she gets a PhD, deficient. Her intellect is incomplete, deficient. She may be suffering from hormones that will make her emotional. It takes 2 witnesses of a woman to equal the 1 witness of the man.
Saudi-based clerics in the video links preach male supremacy.
Men are in charge of women. Wherever he goes, she should follow him, and she shouldn't be allowed to leave the house without his permission.
Sheikh Al-Jabali says the hijab must be enforced on young girls, if necessary with violence.
By the age of 10, it becomes an obligation on us to force her to wear hijab. And if she doesn't wear hijab, we hit her.
Our reporter secretly filmed this preacher, Dr. Bilal Phillips, giving religious rulings at Green Lane. In a speech in the mosque, which was also broadcast at its internet chat room, he claims marrying off a girl before puberty is permissible. He claims the Prophet Muhammad married a 9-year-old girl, so it's permissible now.
The Prophet Muhammad practically outlines the rules regarding marriage prior to puberty. With his practice, he clarified what is permissible, and that is why we shouldn't have any issues about an older man marrying a younger woman, which is looked down upon by the society today. But we know that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ practiced it. It wasn't abuse or exploitation, it was marriage.
Dr. Phillips told us we had quoted him out of context, and he said he was not advocating that Muslims go against the laws of the UK. Muslims living in non-Muslim countries are obliged to abide by the laws of the country. Abu Usama quotes what he says are the words of a companion of the Prophet on the Islamic punishment for homosexuality.
You practice homosexuality with men, take the homosexual man and throw him off the mountain.
And in a DVD, he attacks the idea of gay rights.
They have given them unprecedented rights so that your child can be exposed and introduced to lesbians. Now, they said, if you discriminate against them, you're going to jail.
He says Muslims should discriminate.
Wallahi, we'll discriminate, but we'll discriminate in a way where we don't get in trouble. The Muslim is a dentist. One of those people come and going to take a big needle and stick it in his gut.
Then he says it's a joke, as it might get the mosque into trouble.
Because they'll take this kalam and get us all in trouble.
On the anniversary of the 7th of July bombings, a speech by Abu Usama was broadcast in the Green Lane chat room, condemning terrorism.
I want to make an official statement here. No way are we in agreement to what took place last year on this day in the Kuffar calendar.
But he does believe in jihad.
But in saying that, we do not apologize for any aspect of this deed. There is jihad in Islam. what's the most beloved and favorite thing to Allah? Jihad fi sabilillah.
He says the real jihad will come when the senior Islamic clerics declare it, and prays it will come soon.
We ask Allah to bring about the means and the ways in which the Muslims will get the power and the honor of repelling the oppression of the kuffar, where we can go out and perform the jihad. We ask Allah to bring that time so that we can be participants in that.
Abu Usama told us, Islam allows for any Muslim to peacefully coexist here in the UK with non-Muslims, even though the UK is not an Islamic society. He said he had made it clear that it is a religious duty on all Muslims to obey UK law, and the carrying out of Islamic law could only be done in an actual Islamic state. He said homosexuality is an abomination against Allah and all mankind, and I will never condone it. Even though this is the case, I do not believe in disobeying the law when it comes to the way people deal with homosexuals. A hardline message influenced by Saudi Arabian clerics is preached at Green Lane Mosque in Birmingham. An imam from the mosque has helped advise the government. Abdul Hadi sat on a government task force on extremism, set up after the 7th of July bombings. He was part of its working group on combating extremism in mosques and imams. Yet this DVD shows he took part in a Green Lane conference in which other speakers urged Muslims to discriminate against homosexuals and hit girls who didn't wear the hijab. He seemed to have no worries at the extremism of the message.
It is very hard to conclude such beautiful program, but we have to do.
The head of the working group on mosques and imams was Lord Nazir Ahmed, Britain's first Muslim peer. He's previously praised Green Lane Mosque. In an interview with BBC Radio in 2003, he named it as his favourite spiritual place in the country.
Number 20 Green Lane, Birmingham, is my favourite spiritual place.
He said he'd worshipped there.
This is the most amazing place. When I walk into the mosque, I feel I'm entering the biggest palace on earth.
Lord Ahmed recently said that he would ask the Lord Chancellor to meet an organisation called the Islamic Sharia Council, including its Secretary-General, a preacher called Sheikh Suhaib Hassan. The meeting would be to discuss the introduction of Islamic divorce laws into the UK Constitution. Our reporter secretly filmed Sheikh Hassan speaking at Green Lane Mosque. He's a senior imam at a major mosque in East London and a former president of the Makazi Jamiat Ahle Hadith. In a speech downloaded from his mosque website, he proclaims the supremacy of Muslims in encounters with the non-believers.
And Allah makes the virtues of far down and the virtues of believers supreme.
In speeches on other Islamic websites, he predicts the coming of an Islamic state.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decreed this thing, that I am going to be dominant. The dominance, of course, is a political dominance.
The Islamic State, he predicts, will have a single, lifelong ruler with no opposition parties or elections, and it will bring in a strict version of Islamic law.
The chopping the hands of the thieves, the flogging of the adulterers, and flogging of the drunkards.
Then this state will launch jihad.
Then jihad against the non-Muslims, against those people who are the oppressors.
Sheikh Hassan told us that the word kuffar was not a racist or discriminatory term when heard in its Quranic sense. He said he'd stated many times that the re-establishment of a single Islamic state would be peaceful. He said he had often praised the British welfare state, its judicial, health and education systems. He said, I have never promoted any form of extremism, whether religious or otherwise, or justified violence in conditions of peace. Lord Ahmed told us that Green Lane Mosque was one of many mosques he visited. He said it would be ludicrous to suggest that by visiting an institution I'd become responsible for or aware of every word spoken at that establishment. He said he had asked for the meeting with the Lord Chancellor on behalf of all Muslims, and he said he was not aware of all the views held by Sheikh Hassan.
Do brainwashing!
Next, we investigate claims that radicalism linked to the Saudi religious establishment has spread across the country, even reaching into Britain's biggest and most mainstream mosque. A Dispatch's reporter investigated one of Britain's biggest and most mainstream mosques, Green Lane Mosque in Birmingham, uncovering a fundamentalist ideology emanating from the Saudi religious establishment. He found it promoting male supremacy.
Allah created for women nutrition.
And if she doesn't wear hijab, we hit her.
Condemning non-Muslims.
We hate the kuffar. We do not give obedience to the kuffar.
And predicting a future jihad.
The tables are going to turn, and the Muslims are going to be in a position of being uppermost and in strength.
Now he was to discover how preachers trained in Saudi Arabia are spreading the same message around the country. Last summer, a 2-week Islamic studies course was arranged at the mosque, and our reporter was accepted onto it. It was to be taught by clerics flown specially from the University of Medina in Saudi Arabia. But then it was cancelled at short notice. Our reporter went to their office to find out more. The preacher Abu Usama tells him what the aim of the course was.
From what I know is, people were going to come to teach the course from Saudi Arabia. Part of the program was the students who did good, like the first 3 or top 5 students, were getting a scholarship to go. That was part of the conditions that they had agreed with the professors who were coming, because the professors are from the University
of Medina.
Yes.
The most devout worshippers at Green Lane are being offered scholarships to Saudi religious universities.
It's for people like you.
The aim is to train new preachers, according to Dr. Irfan Al-Alawi, who keeps his face hidden in interviews.
Medina University is a very hardcore Wahhabi institution. Over the years, they have been giving bursaries to students from the United Kingdom and throughout the world to recruit students to be brainwashed. Then they're trained to go abroad and teach their poison and inject it to others.
Medina graduates are now spreading the word in mosques up and down the UK. Like Dr. Bilal Phillips, who says marrying girls before they reach puberty is permissible. Sheikh Suhaib Hassan, who preaches a future Muslim supremacy. And Abu Usama himself.
This is one of the most important items, I think, on the Saudi radical agenda, to push out more hospitable types of religious leadership and replace them with firebrands trained and programmed in the major Saudi universities.
Our reporter finds that Saudi-trained preachers are being promoted in DVDs and CDs throughout the UK. He found typical examples being sold in the car park at Green Lane Mosque. Children are buying them, and the stores are manned by local kids.
Assalamu alaikum, brother.
He buys a DVD of Sheikh Faiz, another Medina-trained preacher, in which he preaches jihad.
The peak, the pinnacle, the crest, the highest point, the pivot, the summit of Islam is jihad.
He criticises Muslim parents who don't want their children to learn this.
Today, many parents, they prevent their children from attending lessons. Why? They fear that they might create or place in their hearts the love, just a bit of the love of sacrificing their lives for Allah Ta'ala. We want to have children and offer them as soldiers defending Islam. Teach them this, that there is nothing more beloved to me than wanting to die as a mujahid, put in their soft, tender heart the zeal of jihad and the love of martyrdom.
The Makazi Jamiat Ahle Hadith, which runs Green Lane Mosque in Birmingham, told us it is committed to promoting interfaith dialogue and political harmony in our society. Scholars from many different backgrounds spoke at its mosque, and we had quoted them out of context. It had not known what each speaker would say beforehand, and did not necessarily agree with everything that may have been said. It said the word kuffar was a neutral term, and said, "We reject the assertion that we are influenced by and teach an extreme version of Islam. We accept the rule of law, and we treat our non-Muslim neighbours with respect." The most notorious convert to preach in Britain was Sheikh Al-Faisal, who studied Islam at Riyadh University. He circulated his own tapes, urging followers to kill and to plant bombs, and was jailed for inciting racial hatred.
You have to bomb the Indian businesses. And as for the Jews, you kill them physically.
In an interview with the BBC, Al-Faisal claimed that he learned his anti-Semitic views from his university training in Saudi Arabia.
I learned in university that the Holocaust was orchestrated in order that the Jews will establish a homeland in Arab territories.
The war to convert is waged on the internet. This website says it's run by an Islamic charity which is based in Saudi Arabia. It directs readers to a fatwa website, which it says is supervised by a Saudi scholar. Readers can email in questions and get religious rulings. The rulings say Muslims in the West must have an attitude of enmity and hatred of the Kafirs. All of the kuffar are the enemies of the Muslims. Jihad, pursuing the Kafirs in their lands and fighting them if they do not submit to the rule of Islam, is a communal obligation on Muslims. Men are superior to women and are better than women, and husbands can hit their wives, though only lightly. It recommends prodding with the fist. DVDs, books and the internet are all ways that the message is spread, according to Saudi expert May Yamani.
Since the 1980s, there has been an increase in the export of Wahhabi teachings to the Muslim world, from Kosovo to Jakarta and to the United States and Great Britain, supercharged with oil money. They sent in money for teachers, for schools, they printed books, educated imams, so it's like a wave of teachings hitting at the shores of Western countries.
Islamic bookshops in Britain are offered free literature.
A number of bookshops known to me have actually gone out of business because they've been undercut by the more fundamentalist literature that's being supplied for free by Saudi Arabia.
Dr. Taj Huggy set up the Muslim Educational Centre of Oxford to promote an Islam of tolerance and peaceful coexistence. He's opposed to Saudi influence over British Muslim life.
The Saudi funding of British Muslim institutions come from a variety of official, semi-official and private sources, in addition to government funding through the Ministry of Religious Affairs and other government agencies.
Money from Saudi has reached the most famous mosque in Europe. London Central Mosque, better known as Regent's Park Mosque, is the most recognisable symbol of moderate mainstream Muslim life in Britain. It says it acts on behalf of the whole Muslim community in dealing with the government. The Saudi monarchy gave £2 million to help build it, and in the 1990s they built its educational and administrative wing. The mosque's official bookshop is run by a company called Darussalam. It's a British company, but it's linked to Darussalam Publications, a global publishing house, whose head office is in Saudi Arabia. Our reporter visited and bought another video of Sheikh Faiz, the Saudi-trained preacher, condemning the non-believer.
Kafir, ya Latif. The worst word that can ever be written. A sign of infidelity, disbelief, filth. A sign of dirt.
He calls Jews pigs, who will be killed when the end of the world comes.
This preacher will say, "O Muslim, behind me is the Jew, come and kill him." They'll be all of them. Every single one of them.
Regular interfaith meetings with other religions take place at this mosque. Yet in a DVD bought from its bookshop, a British-based convert called Sheikh Khalid Yassin, who studied Arabic in Saudi Arabia, condemns the teachings of other religions.
We don't need to go to the Christians or the Jews debating with them about the filth which they believe. We Muslims have been ordered to do brainwashing because the kuffar, they are doing brain defiling. You are watching the Kafir TVs and your wife is watching it right now and your children are watching it right now, and they are being polluted and they are being penetrated and they are being infected, so that your children and you go out as Muslims and come back to the house as Kafirs.
In this DVD from the mosque bookshop, he preaches against the equality of women.
This whole delusion of the equality of women is a bunch of foolishness. There's no such thing.
In this DVD, he claims that AIDS is a Western and Christian plot.
No, missionaries from the World Health Organization and Christian groups went into Africa and inoculated people for diphtheria, malaria, yellow fever, and they put in the medicine the AIDS virus, which is a conspiracy.
The mosque bookshop sells speeches by the Green Lane Mosque preacher, Abu Usama. In this one, he says Muslims and non-Muslims cannot coexist.
Of the Muslim and the non-Muslim, they cannot coexist. One of them is going to impact the other. Non-Muslims are the authority and they have the power. Their lifestyle is going to impact upon the Muslims because the good and the bad, they do not coexist.
And they sell audio CDs of Murtaza Khan, a preacher who speaks in many UK mosques. He's also an Islamic studies teacher at Al-Noor Muslim Primary School in Essex. In this CD from the mosque, he claims the Quran condemns Jews and Christians.
Those whom the wrath of Allah is upon is the Jew, is the Christian.
And he criticises Muslims who follow their ways.
We have become Jews in our clothing, Jews in our eating, Jews in everything that we do, and the other half is Christians in everything that they do. Muslims are following one of these accursed nations. And people are still not waking up to understand the fact that these people are enemies towards us.
He says Muslims should become doctors, so women don't have to go to non-Muslim doctors.
Person should have a sense of shame. For how long have we seen that our mothers, our sisters and our daughters have to go and uncover themselves in front of these filthy non-Muslim doctors?
Murtaza Khan told us,
"My discourses have never been delivered with the intent to malign any individual group or race. They are delivered to inspire Muslims to better themselves and then to play a positive role for their own and wider community in Britain."
Al-Noor Muslim Primary School told us,
"We can confirm that Mr M. Khan is employed as a teacher at Al-Noor Primary School and can also categorically state that the alleged remarks do not reflect the views of this educational establishment. No extreme or discriminatory views are expressed or taught at our school by any of our teachers."
Darussalam International Publications Limited, which runs the mosque bookshop, told us it sells a wide range of material and did not necessarily agree with it. It said it was totally unfair to blame them for the views expressed in the lectures. The current Director General of Regent's Park Mosque, Dr. Al Dubayan, is from Saudi Arabia. A recent employment tribunal concerning a sex discrimination complaint at the mosque revealed that they had no jurisdiction over Dr. Al Dubayan because he's actually a serving Saudi diplomat. Dr. Al Dubayan told us his diplomatic status had been extended to him as a courtesy by the Saudi Arabian government following his appointment, as with his predecessors of different nationalities. He said the mosque bookshop was run independently and he was seriously concerned to hear that inappropriate materials may be on offer. The materials had been removed immediately until it was ascertained whether they were damaging to the principles of tolerance, multiculturalism and equal rights. He said it is false and misleading to make the sweeping generalization that religious teachings from Saudi Arabia promote extremism, and it is also false to assert that the ICC is dominated by the influence of such teachings. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia told us,
"The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is an Islamic state, governed in accordance with the teachings of the Sharia. Islam is a religion of tolerance and respects the human rights of all people, regardless of gender, age, religion or race. Islam is a religion without national borders. There is no such thing as the religious establishment in Saudi Arabia. Here, as in every society, one can find extremists, as well as conservatives and moderates. Saudi Arabia does not support radical or extreme ideology, but strongly condemns all those seeking to politicize Islam, preaching, inciting or fostering hatred and violence, or legitimizing terrorist activities. To this end, many imams have been re-educated in recent years, and a misguided few have been dismissed. Any financial donations, public or private, are scrutinized according to the highest international standards, to ensure that no funds are sent to extremist groups. Saudi Arabia has pioneered calls for greater international cooperation for the exchange of timely and specific information."
Haris Rafiq heads the Sufi Muslim Council, which promotes a tolerant Islam and is opposed to the spread of radical teachings.
Wahhabis and their offshoots are teaching Muslim youngsters to be isolationists, are teaching Muslim youngsters that America and Britain are against them. and therefore they need to get up and fight with them or struggle against them.
Some Wahhabis believe that this is how the West is to be brought down, by spreading Wahhabism in the heart of the West cities.
Next, we find radicalism openly preached at a major mosque run by an organisation praised by Tony Blair for its support of multiculturalism and interfaith. A Dispatches reporter has uncovered a message of bigotry and intolerance spreading through Britain from the Saudi religious establishment.
We want to have children and offer them as soldiers, put in their soft, tender heart the zeal of jihad.
Now he was to find more radical speakers, preaching in a mosque run by a major organisation, praised by Tony Blair for its interfaith work. While filming Undercover, our reporter met this preacher, Dr. Ijaz Mian. He's a travelling speaker who talks at different organisations in Britain. Our reporter filmed his talk at a mosque run by the Ala Hadith organisation in Derby. It's the same organisation that runs Green Lane Mosque in Birmingham, which our reporter found promoting extreme teachings. Dr. Mian praises the Saudi religious police, saying they can imprison people for not praying.
They send the police and they say, well, if you don't come for prayer, close your shop, we will arrest you. But if you don't, then we have to bring the punishment on you. You will be killed and nobody will pray on you.
Dr. Mian is yet another UK preacher who has taught in Saudi Arabia. He spent 6 years studying Islam in Ibn Saud University in Riyadh. He wants to see religious police operating on the streets.
They would make sure that every person prays to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala 5 times. Every woman will be covered from the top to the toes. Hijab. Otherwise the police will just correct them.
He has a radical plan for this country. Muslims shouldn't accept British democracy.
Everywhere, king, queen, House of Commons. If you accept it, then you're a part of it. You don't accept it, but you have to dismantle it. So you being a Muslim, you have to fix it up. There will know what you call House of Commons. From that White House to this Black House, we know that we have to dismantle it.
Muslims must grow in strength, then take over.
You are in a what you call situation in which you have to live like a state within a state till you take over. But until this happens, you have to preach. Or you become in such a course that the people, they just submit to you. Hands up. Till you become strong enough that to take over.
It's an extreme vision that Muslims will one day take over Britain and bring about an Islamic state with Sharia law. Dr. Mian invites our reporter to visit Birmingham, where he's based.
We can come to you, you can come to us.
He takes him up on the offer, and a few weeks later they meet in Birmingham. Dr. Mian takes him to Sparkbrook Islamic Centre, where he wants to arrange a talk. The centre is run by the UK Islamic Mission, a major organisation dedicated to interfaith work. This is their annual conference last year in Birmingham. It runs over 45 mosques and branches in Britain and has 6,000 children in its part-time Islamic schools. The Prime Minister has said the UKIM is extremely valued by the government, particularly for its multi-faith and multicultural activities. Yet despite his radical views, Dr. Mian has worked with the UKIM and given talks at its events. At their annual conference, he was a guest on stage. Today he's making a presentation to the UKIM committee at the Sparkbrook Islamic Centre. He suggests that the committee invites a small group of non-Muslims to the mosque and tries to convert them.
Every kafir has a right to Islam.
He says Muslims cannot accept non-Muslim rule.
You cannot accept the rule of the kafir kufr. We have to rule ourselves and we have to rule others.
Although his radical beliefs are obvious, the UKIM committee is happy to go ahead with his talk.
Yeah, we invite people, man. Will you be available to speak to them? Of course. This is my full-time duty. Yeah, that's we organize it.
The UKIM hosts regular interfaith events at this mosque. Yet when our reporter joined the worshippers at Sparkbrook for a Friday sermon, he heard the UKIM imam preaching against non-Muslims.
God, help us win the fight against the kuffar in every field, in every department of life. We beg you to help us fight against the enemies of our religion. Help us fight the kuffar.
The UKIM runs dawah, or missionary centres, which spread the word. Our reporter visits one of them at Alam Rock Islamic Centre in Birmingham to see what kind of materials they circulate.
Is the Dawah Centre open upstairs?
Yes, what do you want?
I'm looking for some books.
Okay, yes.
He's given some free leaflets.
One thing is this one.
Okay.
You start with these.
Okay,
These are easy to understand for everybody who doesn't know anything about Islam.
They're by a Pakistani religious leader called Saeed Maududi. He was the founder of a fundamentalist political party in Pakistan called Jamaat Islami. The UKIM literature outlines his radical message.
Islam is a revolutionary ideology which seeks to alter the social order of the entire world.
Muslims form an international revolutionary party. The pamphlets contain some of the ideas that Dr. Mian preaches, that Muslims must work towards doing away with all non-Islamic governments and set up an Islamic state. The party Maududi founded, the Jamaat Islami, has links with the Saudi religious establishment. Although it stands in Pakistani elections, its aim is to set up an Islamic state run by Sharia law. The man who runs the missionary centre in Birmingham says the UKIM is an independent organisation with its own objectives. But he says they follow the same ideology as the Jamaat Islami.
Ideologically, we are affiliated with Jamaat Islam.
It's the same ideology?
Yeah, you can say that. It's the same ideology.
He claims the UKIM shares the same ideology with other fundamentalist organisations, like Hamas in Palestine and the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt.
Some are in Pakistan, some are in Egypt, or some are in wherever they are. Their ideology is same. So you can say our ideology is same with them.
Thank you very much.
Our reporter finds the UKIM accepts money from Saudi sheikhs. Every week at its Sparkbrook Mosque, a list of donors is read out.
Saudi Arab ke professor Sheikh.
Our reporter attended a day of talks arranged at the UKIM Sparkbrook Mosque. When we contacted the UKIM, they said they had hired their centre out to another organisation who arranged this event. In public, the UKIM has told Muslims they can participate in British democracy, and it invited politicians to its annual conference last summer in Birmingham.
I'm here as a friend of Islam and as a Labour politician.
But in the day of talks in their mosque, invited preachers condemned democracy.
Today we find ourselves bearing the brunt of a pervasive attack against Islam, trying to win the hearts and the minds of the Muslimin over to become advocates and supporters of a democratic system. Then never will the Jews and the Christians be happy with you until you follow their way, and you follow their system, and you follow their way of life. Call the people to avoid and renounce the millah of the Jews and the Christians, which is a millah of freedom, which is a millah of equality, which is a millah of democracy.
The next speaker is introduced as the Deputy Headmaster of Darul Uloom Islamic High School, a single-faith secondary school in Birmingham. The government has urged single-faith schools to promote tolerance, inclusion and understanding between different sections of society.
They talk about integration. There's an overt as well as a covert plan, a program. They talk about you need to integrate. If you don't, then you're a freak. You're strange. There's something wrong with you. Like if you have something against homosexuality, they've got a name to call
told you now? You're a homophobic, man. There's something wrong with you. Not with this gay. Oh, sorry, a homosexual. Well, which part of this society are we supposed to take and adopt as our life? Which one?
His criticism of Western society even extended to democracy itself.
And we've got all these people and all these organisations talking about it. Let's be democratic. And I disagree with him for using the word democracy. He should call it according to the Islamic understanding of the word, which is kufrocracy. Kufrocracy. That's the plan. This is a hidden, cancerous aim of these people.
Darul Uloom School told us that the deputy headmaster no longer worked at the school and said his views did not represent the school's. The former deputy head told us he had resigned and said he did not believe that Muslims should isolate themselves from the non-Muslim community. The UKIM works with the police and invited officers to its annual conference.
I take huge comfort from the really positive messages from the Muslim community.
But in the event, which they allowed at their Sparkbrook Mosque, another invited speaker said Muslims can't join the police.
Is it correct? Is it viable to join the police? How can you be implementing the laws of kufr? It means a rejection of the concept of democracy, rejecting all of the entirety of the system.
He mentions a Muslim who joined the British Army and was killed fighting the Taliban last summer.
There was an individual who was killed in Afghanistan recently. Well, it was a Muslim name. He came from a Pakistani family. And do you know what they've written in the tabloid newspaper? Hero of Islam. Hero of Islam who went into a Muslim Afghanistan to kill Muslimin. Why? Because their crime is implementing Islam.
Then he praises the Taliban fighters who killed him.
The hero of Islam is the one who separated his head from his shoulders.
Sparkbrook Islamic Centre told us that the hall had been hired out by another group and said, under no circumstances should the UKIM or Sparkbrook Islamic Centre be held responsible for the event. The UKIM said the event did not reflect our policy or culture. It said it had no organic links with Jamaat Islami in Pakistan or any other Islamic party. It said it unequivocally rejected all our allegations and said the UKIM seeks to promote a two-way understanding between Muslims and their non-Muslim compatriots. Dr. Mian told us that he did not advocate that Islam would be forced upon anyone and said that dismantling British democracy meant correcting its laws. He said we had not quoted his many speeches condemning terrorism and the killing of innocent people. Our investigation has uncovered bigotry and intolerance spreading from the Saudi religious establishment through major mainstream British organisations.
The radicalising power of this ideology is extremely dangerous. We're actually losing our children to extremists.
I regard what the Saudis are doing in the ghettos of British Islam as potentially lethal for the future of the community.
For a wealth of information and debate about issues from Channel 4's dispatches, log on to channel4.com/dispatches.